inspiration, motivation, or hope? Do you let fear hold you back? Sometimes you feel lost or just stuck in your own thoughts, and you want a clear path to give you results. Then, my friend, you are in the right place. My name is Rachel Best, and I am your host of How to Make a Mark in the World, Finding Your Signature. Go ahead and grab a pen and paper because you're going to want to take notes. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the How to Make a Mark in the World, Finding Your Signature. Today, we have an amazing guest, Maxwell Ventura. Maxwell, tell us who you are.
Yes, thanks for having me on, Rachel. Yeah, so I am a real estate broker associate with Douglas Elliman here in San Diego for the last 5 years or so. Originally from the East Coast, and I guess we could take it from there.
Awesome. So tell us, how did you get into real estate?
Yes. So I originally came out to the West Coast, to Southern California, to the Inland Empire, Lake Elsinore, Temecula area. And this was about 8 years ago, because I had some really good friends of mine that grew up with me on the East Coast, and they had moved out to get into the solar industry. And so that was kind of it was a turning point in my life. I was ready for a move. I had grown up on the East Coast around the Philadelphia area my entire life. My college was, 20 minutes from where I grew up, my high school, ready for a change. And so when I came out to visit, I said, yep, this is awesome. And I moved 3 months later. So it was solar and great friends of mine. Actually, it was the catalyst for originally bringing me out to Southern California. What was cool about that experience was, I can't say I really had too much passion for solar, but it was something new and different along with the territory. But what was really cool was I got to experience, as an outside consultant or sales rep, I got to experience really all of Southern California within 6 months, because all my appointments were set for me. And I got to see all of San Diego, all of Orange County, all of LA County, the high desert, Palm Springs, and then all of the Inland Empire, and within a very short amount of time. So, I didn't have any bias towards any of the different counties. Like I feel like a lot of the San Diego people don't like LA people and vice versa. But I had no bias, and I loved it everywhere. I thought every single town and city has its own unique kind of features, and same with all of the beaches, all the way from Imperial Beach all the way up to Malibu, right? You can probably count 30 different beaches, and they all kind of have their own unique flavor to them. But to make a long story short, I eventually settled on San Diego. It was by far my favorite, not only county, but just city to live in. And so after doing the solar thing for a few years, I got myself down to San Diego, and then I had joined a BNI, which is a business networking international networking group. And after being in that group for about a year, that's when I met a San Diego native that had been in the real estate industry now for about 20 years. And he was actually the reason why I got into real estate, or I had mustered up the strength to ask him. I said, hey, I'm not really too into the solar thing. I've been doing it for a few years. I want to get into real estate. And that's how it started. And it's one of the best decisions I ever made, because I'm obsessed.
That's awesome. I want to back up real quick and just share that, I got to meet Maxwell in California at a coaching event, and he's awesome. So if you ever, he knows what he's talking about. So in real estate, he knows what he's talking about. So if you are thinking about buying in San Diego or in that area, he definitely knows the area. He knows a lot about it. And he's the person that you want to get a hold of if you ever want to move over to the West Coast. And also, I want to share with you guys, go ahead and grab your pen and paper, because
I'm sure as we go throughout this podcast, he's going to probably give you some little nuggets of wisdom, and you're going to want to make sure you write that down. And actually, when you write things down, you're 50% more likely to retain it and remember it. And so, and then you also want to go back and kind of some of the things that he shares, maybe, you know, if he shares something that you can apply to your life, I would encourage you to hang it up and apply it to your life as well. So Maxwell, tell us, so you've been in real estate for 5 years, you love your area, you are amazing at what you do, and just, you know, the name of the podcast is How to Make a Mark on the World. So for you to leave a mark in the world, what does that mean to you? When people think of Maxwell Ventura, who are you? Like, what do you want to leave on a mark in the world, and how do you want people to remember you and know you as?
Sure. Yeah. So, you know, I think people's goals change over time. And, you know, I'm 36, and I really started getting heavy into personal development, I'll say 10 years ago. And it was one of the most classic books that most people start with. It's Think and Grow Rich. And I remember Bob Proctor talking about how he's been reading that book for, you know, 50 something years. And I think he got all the way up to 60 something years before he recently passed. And I read that book and I was like, man, I've got everything figured out. Like, this is why I can't believe, like, this is insane. It just opened my eyes. And so to get back to your question, you know, it's more about, I think, leaving my mark comes more from a philosophical approach. I simply want to be the best version of myself, and I want to inspire other people to be the best version of themselves.
Yes, that is one of my favorite books as well. That's my second favorite book in the whole wide world. That was so pivotal in my life. When I read that book, it opened my eyes to a whole new, holy cow, what the world. And so, and Bob Proctor, I love Bob Proctor. He's also an amazing personal development person. So you said about 10 years ago, is that what you said?
Yeah, about 10 years ago. And God, you know, it was funny too, because I remember seeing, this is like right around, I suppose, when social media was really like starting. And I remember seeing, I guess it was like probably one of the first ads that you would see in your feed when you're scrolling. And I remember it was an ad of Ty Lopez, and he was in his garage, and he had the camera, you know, kind of facing him. And he said, he had his 2 Ferraris behind him in his garage. And he's like, you know, what's really cool about how I got these Ferraris, but what's even cooler, and he pans the camera, and it's like, there's all these books that I read. And it was just a couple of bookshelves behind him. And then that just got me thinking, I was like, oh man, I really need to start reading. And then I got into reading, and that was the first book that I picked up. And then Bob Proctor has also been one of my favorites, you know, he's really been inspirational for me. It's too bad that he passed. It was actually one of my life goals was to meet him. But I mean, I think he lives on through so many people. He was just incredible.
Yes, you are so right. I also wanted to meet him. And I actually, one of his friends is one of my guests on my show. So I'll have to forward that over to you and connect you guys, because he's awesome too. So yeah, like back to what you said though about personal development and investing in yourself and investing into your mind. Share with us a little bit, like, what does that mean to you? Personal development and investing in yourself. What have you gained from doing those things?
Yeah, I think that we are here to be the best that we can be. And I've always loved the idea of life as a series of sprints, right? Or it's a marathon of sprints, because it's the one day, one life mentality. Like, we sleep all night, and hopefully we get our 6, 7, 8 hours, and we get our rest, and we're fully rejuvenated, and we wake up ready to go again. And that day, I feel, should be a sprint. I know that, at least for me, and it's different for everyone, I can't speak for anyone else, but for me, I know that when I have put in a solid day of work, that I feel really good at the end of the day. I know at the end of the day, if I really did my best, or if I took risks, or I got outside of my comfort zone, or I had difficult conversations, or I did things that, I tried to get out of like this habitual state and any type of like a hamster wheel day, right? It's like, when's the last time you did something for the first time? I know that feeling at the end of the day, and then that makes me feel good at the end of the day as I go to sleep and I'm getting ready for my next day. So that's why I've always liked the idea that it's a series of sprints. And again, too, it's like you got to love what you do, or at least put the passion into what you're doing. But personal development for me, I mean, like a big ritual of mine is reading every day. And because that really is momentum for my mind. It puts good ideas into my brain. It puts someone else's ideas that has been there, done that, and now they're writing a book about it, into my head. And that's the type of environment. That's the type of, I say, philosophy or ideas that I want around me. It's kind of like trimming the weeds, or trimming the garden, because the weeds start to grow every day just from our natural environment. So personal development for me has been a big part of my life, and just refining, like learning and refining my philosophy and keeping a good attitude. And because it's just constant daily reminders and like I said, momentum from my mind.
Wow. I really encourage you all to go back and listen to that segment, because that was so good. I've never heard that. Life is a series of sprints, and each day. That is so powerful. I've never even thought about that. And just showing up in excellence and showing up for the day. And that was so good. Mic drop, right? So awesome. So share with us. So, okay. So you're into personal development, you're a real estate guy. Tell us some of the obstacles that you've had to overcome.
Yeah. So, gosh, my first 2 years were really a struggle. And that's common in our industry. They say that there's about a 90% failure rate, right? And real estate's hard. I mean, it can be hard. And again, that's a mindset, that's a perception. But, in the beginning, like when I moved down to San Diego, other than my friends that lived up an hour north in the Inland Empire, I knew one person in San Diego, and it was coincidentally a friend of mine that I'd grown up with on the East Coast. We went to personal training school together, blah, blah, blah. So I didn't know anyone. So the first 2 years were tough. And, I felt like I was putting in the hours. I was working, long days. I was one of the first ones, if not the first one into the office, last one to leave, that whole thing. But the results weren't coming. But, luckily I had a good team around me, a good mentor. And, the idea was just keep going, keep putting in the work. It's the law of the harvest. If you plant the seeds and you water them and you plow, eventually they will yield fruit. And that eventually took a lot longer in my eyes than it should have. So there came with that a lot of frustration. But it's almost like those first 2 years, it's kind of like the amount of torque or thrust it takes. It's sort of like a jet kind of getting off the runway. It takes so much energy and so much torque and effort and focus to lift off the runway, just to get up off the ground. But then when you finally do, it's not that you want to coast, but flying's a lot easier, or traveling distance is a lot easier. And so, I really struggled those first couple years, but again, consistency has been one of the most important, crucial factors for me. And, I feel like everyone talks about it because it really is important. John Maxwell says 4 days of climbing can be ruined with 1 day of coasting. And so momentum has been a really key trait, or idea or concept, because it really is easy to break all that momentum, by having an off day, or not focusing, or getting distracted, or sitting on the couch, or watching Netflix, or that. So the momentum is really important.
Yeah, those are all really, really good. A law of the harvest, consistency, momentum. I love your analogy. That's so good. What a visual to share with the audience. I love that. And so, what would you say is like the best business advice over your time of being a real estate guy? What would you say the best business advice you've ever been given, especially in those hard times?
Just do it.
Just do it. I like it.
Just do it.
Good.
So this, yeah,
okay.
I can expand on that. So I don't know if you're familiar with the DISC model, one of the classic personality trait. So I historically have grown up and I've been heavier on the C side, which could be considered cautious, conscientious. I've been a spreadsheet guy my whole life, wanting to fiddle fart things to death. And there's a saying, if you left the cars up to the engineers, it would never leave the showroom floor. So, and a great thing about, my mentor when I came on was he was the exact opposite. He was a heavy D. So dominant driver, wanting to take action, so that just do it, is exactly what I'm talking about. Give me the bullet points and let's go. Like, I don't need to get involved in the minutia. If all you do is deal with minutia, you're going to end up in a ton of manure. So you need to get less micro, more macro. There's also a great book called Rocket Fuel, where they talk about those two people that I just described actually make the best partners because they complement each other's skill sets. So what's great about your personality is that you can change it. It's your choice. And so that's something that I've made a conscious effort to change over the past 5 years, as I understood after, a couple years of frustration and trying to set up all these email templates and workflows, and everything's got to be perfect before taking any action. And I realized that was becoming a detriment. Especially in the beginning. It's like, you just got to, with any industry, you got to get out there. I'll say any sales industry, which is a lot of industries, and just in general, right? Because we're in sales really all our life, and just our relationships, in some form or fashion, is get out there and talk to people and just be yourself and try to help them. Put yourself behind their eyeballs. Really try to come from an empathetic, compassionate viewpoint. It takes all the pressure off. And I would imagine it's the same for speakers too. If you come from a place of really trying to help someone or focus on one person, it's like the wall of ice comes down. And it's the same in sales. So when I gradually shifted my personality from everything's got to be perfect before taking action to like, no, the most important thing is talking to people and like touches and contacts, and not worrying about this or that, and just come from a place of helping someone and trying to learn. I don't need to know all the answers up front. We'll figure it out. And if I can't figure it out, then someone on my team will be able to help us figure it out. But your best interests are in my heart. So that was a big shift for me, is getting away from more of that C on the disc wheel and incorporating some more D.
Yes, very good. That's so good, because I used to struggle with that too. I'm actually a high IS on there, but I've actually shifted a lot. I should take it again to see where I'm at. Yeah. But what you said about having everything perfect and having to know the answers, and that's just shuffling papers. You're not accomplishing anything. And to build a business, you have to have relationships and build rapport and connections with people. And if you're just sitting trying to make your spreadsheets perfect or whatever perfect, like, that doesn't really help anybody. Oh yeah, you have a nice spreadsheet, but you don't have anybody on it. So
right.
Yes, that's good. And I love how you said it too, about being able to shift your personality, because I also have taken that test as well as a few other ones. And I was glad to know that you can shift your personality. So if you aren't strong in something and you're like, oh, like, I want to be that person, why can't I be like that person? Not that I want to be like another person, but those characteristics or those traits or those forces in those different quadrants. And so, and just, working on yourself. And I think that's where personal development and, just being engaged with a different kind of people as well. That's what I've really come to find out is like, when you start personally growing and you start putting yourself in positions to have different kinds of conversations with different kinds of people, then that also helps, with your personality, and it helps you have to be okay with getting uncomfortable and just do it, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, the power of proximity. You are the average of the 5 people you hang around with. Your network is your net worth, and then also they say the 2 biggest levers in our life are other people and other people's money.
Elaborate a little bit on that.
Well, that's one great thing about America, right? And in my business in real estate and you have to think there's a whole business built up around lending money. And we'll get in more into real estate now if that's what we want to do. But, and that's the mortgage finance industry. So, leverage, right? Borrowing other people's money, the bank's money, private money, hard money. Leverage plays such a big role in our industry because you're able to acquire millions of dollars worth of real estate, for pennies on the dollar, essentially, when you're able to come in with 3% down or 3.5 or 5, or even if it's 20 or 25, an investment property, 2 to 4 unit, but so that's why I say other people, your network, and then other people's money.
Gotcha. Nice. And back to the top 5 people that actually keeps coming up on my podcast. A lot of people say that, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. Who are those top 5 people that you're hanging out with? Who are they? Who's pouring into your life? And I know for myself, I've had to release people in my life, and it's okay to still love them. But sometimes you have to release people and just, yeah. So, and then also I was going to ask you, so you said mentor earlier. So do you have coaches in, multiple areas of your life or just a couple areas of your life? Do you find coaches valuable?
Absolutely. Because, that to me goes right back to you're the average of the 5 people that you hang out with. So, and that includes coaches or mentors. I think that's really one of the most important ways to level up is via coaches and mentors. For some people it's mastermind groups, for some, and I think there's a lot of variables there, but if you have I think a mentor really is the most powerful, because now we're talking about a one-on-one scenario, and it's someone that's where you want to be now. Generally there's going to be an age gap, and I think it would behoove that person to have something in common with the mentor, whether you both like to go out and play golf, or you both enjoy fine restaurants, or maybe it's cigars or tequila, whatever. Again, you're the average of the people you surround yourself with, because otherwise, how are you going to level up? You need to raise, I don't want to say need, but if you want to raise your thermostat, you should be, I would encourage getting around people who are at a higher temperature.
That's good. I like that. Higher temperature. Get around people with a higher temperature. You're so right. If you want to go places that you've never been, that's how I operate too. Like I always hire coaches for areas. If I want to go to the next level, who has been where I want to go, and then I hire them. And I stick to them like glue. And I ask them, what do I need to do? I'm always asking questions and staying connected. And so that's a good piece of little nugget there. So tell me, what is your most favorite, which you've given us a ton of them already, so maybe you've already told us, but what is one of either your favorite quotes or a favorite scripture that you fall back on for inspiration?
Man's greatest burden is unfulfilled potential.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I like that.
At the end of the day, what's the most common thing and I know you've seen those posts, and it's a nurse in hospice, and they've been surrounded by people that are dying, for the last 20, 30, 40 years. And what's the 3 or the 5 most common things that they say? It's never the things that they did. It's always the things that they didn't do. So, when I say man's great, that could be obviously man or woman, but man's greatest burden is unfulfilled potential. And that goes back to the one day, one life thing. If I know at the end of the day, I wasted the day, I didn't fulfill my potential, I didn't get 1% better, right? I didn't push the needle. It's not a good feeling. And again, that's for me. It's not necessarily for everyone. Like I'm right now in my life, I'm the type of person that doesn't really enjoy sitting around and just hanging, right? And like going to the bar and chilling. I did that years and years ago, a whole decade ago. But now it's like, no, I want to progress. I want to learn. I want to get better. So that quote or that philosophy has really stuck with me for the last few years. Man's greatest burden is unfulfilled potential.
Yeah, I've heard that before with the people on their deathbed and what is their all the regrets. And so why not live life? Like, we all have a purpose, we all have something amazing inside of us, and sometimes sometimes there's more greatness inside of us than we even know about until we start operating and becoming that person that we're supposed to be. And so I think it's so important to literally, I made a post about that the other day. I want to live full out, no regrets, live life full out to the biggest and best potential that I possibly can. And I think you are a great example of, living in excellence and just pursuing life and your goals and your dreams. And you're an inspiration to me. I always love getting to see you every few months when it's time to take more coaching classes. And so just watching you grow, it's been amazing. So I absolutely love it. So tell us, how can our audience connect with you if they want to connect with you?
Yeah, so I'm all over social. My website's maxwellventura.com. I primarily spend most of my time on Instagram and YouTube. So my Instagram is Maxwell, middle initial B as in Bravo, Ventura, and just Maxwell Ventura on my YouTube channel. And so I post, it's mainly real estate related. I can't help but sprinkling in some personal development here and there. But it's part of who I am, right? So I want to try to be authentic, and I really do love the real estate industry, and so I enjoy putting out a lot of content. I try to make most of it all educational, whether it be in the small my niche, right, is 2 to 4 units, single family residence, value add. So I do work with a lot of investors, be it first time investors that are looking to start their portfolio, or more experienced investors that are looking for infill opportunities. It's such a great niche because you're kind of right in between the commercial guys that are 5 units and up, and your standard, I'll say, residential realtors that just help people buy and sell. I come more so on the investing side, and that 2 to 4 unit, which is still considered residential, I really enjoy. So that's where I'm at right now in my career, what I'm focusing on.
Very good. Well, and I think we'll have those in the comments as well. And you guys, you have to go look at his YouTube because his videos are so awesome. I've watched a few of them that you post onto Facebook. You post most of those on Facebook too, don't you?
Yeah, well, that's luckily now that Instagram and Facebook are synced. So I post on Instagram, and then I think it sends it over to Facebook.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. They're really, really good. Like, again, you know what you're talking about. And if anybody is looking into that San Diego area, you are definitely the person for them to touch base with. And so with all of that being said, just look into the camera, Maxwell, and just give our audience one last piece of amazing wisdom before we let you go.
I would say, plan out your day the night before. Don't start the day before you have it started, or don't start the day before you have it finished, and just do it.
That's good piece of advice. That is such good piece of advice. Awesome. Because you wake up in the morning, you already know what you're going to be doing.
That's right. Your brain will go to work for you while you're sleeping, your subconscious. And then, right when you wake up, you are ready to go. There's no grogginess. There's no confusion. There's no having to spend more units of your discipline and willpower on what should I do and what should I wear. Set up the day beforehand. Don't start the day before you have it finished, and you'll wake up ready to go.
That is so good and so true. So true. Anyways, guys, thank you so much, Maxwell, for being on this show today. You gave a ton of wisdom, and I hope that you guys go back and re-listen, take some more notes, check this guy out, follow him. And I, again, just thank you so much for your time tonight. Thank you, Maxwell.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
This is your host, Rachel Best, and I hope you loved the show. Go ahead and subscribe to my channel, as well as share with a friend. If you would like, you can follow me on Instagram as well as Facebook under Rachel Best. You can also find me on my website at rachelbestspeaks.com.